to Legally Speaking with me, Tarun Nangia. Today is the third iteration of the show that we are doing on Justice Hima Kohli. I'll just make a recall. You remember we did the first show when she took over as the Chief Justice of the Telangana High Court. Then we got the opportunity to do another show on her when she took over as a judge of the Supreme Court of India. Another proud moment for the Delhi Bar. Now, when she is on the bench, we get an opportunity to do a show on her head because unlike others, she's also a vocal judge. She speaks her mind. And what has she spoken? She said law should not remain an old boys club. She also said that women in the field of law not only get less work, but also get paid less compared to their male counterparts. Also, she spoke of gender disparity, breaking the glass ceiling, all these things. But it's for today's panelists to do the talking and not me. So may I welcome to you Senior Advocate Pinky Anand, and ma'am has served as the Additional Solicitor General of India. You would remember her. She was there on both the shows last time that we did on Justice Hima Kohli. She's kindly consented to be a part this time. Also good to see you, ma'am, and looking forward to some interesting interventions from you. I have with me Senior Advocate Geeta Luthra, and when I requested her to do this show, she was away in Odisha. She wanted to do the show. She said, no, I want to speak on this. She's come and she's made time for us. Thank you so much, Pam, for participating. I have with me Neha Nagpal. She is partner with NM Law Chambers, a law firm she co-founded. Neha, also, I remember you discussing this with me last month when she had spoken about it and how excited you were that time. And I did not know that time it would turn into a show, but now we are doing a show on this issue. So looking forward to your inputs on what she said. You run a law firm, and I would want a perspective from that angle, how challenging it is for a woman to run a law firm and your challenges from there on. At the outset, may I request Ma'am Pinky Anand to start with your opening comment before we open the discussion.
Actually, this subject is something that I think you're right. Justice Hima Kohli is extremely vocal and she's been voicing concerns on various issues. And of course, this is not the first one that she has. But it's a rather important one, and she's been very vocal about this issue itself. I have seen her through some other hearings also and some other talks that she was addressing. And interestingly, she takes up her own cause along with the others. In the sense, she uses her cause and the manner in which she's aspired and the manner in which she's broken the glass ceiling to try to take this whole conversation forward. And I think that is very important, to have somebody as an icon, to have somebody as representative of a cause that you can achieve is a real kind of story behind it. Because I also didn't know. At times, I've often had women lawyers who come across and say, ma'am, you've done this, we can do this too, kind of thing. So this whole principle that you have of sending down a message down the ranks to say, this is possible. So just as much as you have Chief Justice Nagaratna, who's going to become the first woman Chief Justice of the country, Justice Hima Kohli, who became the first woman Chief Justice of Telangana, and then, of course, went on to become the Supreme Court judge and is carrying on and with great furor and aplomb, several judgments to her credit. So I think she has made a place for herself, and she did pretty much the same in the High Court too. I have known her as a lawyer, and we all have, in fact, known her in that capacity. She also has some lighter sides of her story, but she is extremely vocal, and I think it's delightful to have the whole message put forward on breaking of glass ceilings and this old boys club. Now, it's another thing, Tarun, I must share with you. You basically have everybody running shy of being critical. So you don't very often voice this and say, it's the old boys club and you don't want to kind of break it. But I think that's where the message has to go. It has to grow across surface. And I'm not saying this as a personal statement. I'm saying this as a cause. So I stand there on this ground to only say this. So I think that is an important part, that she's kind of characterizing and putting into a kind of copy and saying, no, this is not good. So something which is bad is something which shouldn't translate, and something which is good should translate. In fact, on the same lines, Chief Justice Chandrachud recently, in fact, his entire thesis was an affirmative action at Harvard. And he was recently voicing himself there at the Harvard Law School. And he was also speaking about how affirmative action actually is something that should be treated as fostering of a relationship and improving the lot, and not as a negative. It is not that it is the horse merit, but the fact that it actually fosters that situation. So I think across board, we've had so many women judges being appointed now, across board in the Supreme Court as much as in the high courts. And I think that is sending across an amazing message across to all the people.
So it is so heartening, ma'am, to hear you only for 2 points that you yourself were an achiever, having graduated from the Harvard Law School 35 years ago, and then went on to become the ASG So you yourself are a story of achievement in your own right. And then your words for Justice Kohli are indeed much liked and appreciated by a world of young lawyers who are looking up to people like you and Justice Hima Kohli to achieve something. I'll go to Senior Advocate Geeta Luthra, who again, achiever in her own right, one of the top criminal lawyers in India. Ma'am, your opening comment.
So I've seen, fortunately, the journey of Justice Kohli starting at the Delhi High Court. And I think she was fortunate that the three lawyers that she worked with all became judges. And Justice Sunanda Bhandare, Justice Y.K. Sabharwal, who went on to become Chief Justice of India, Justice Vijender Jain. And they were all lawyers. She worked with them. She did a lot of work for NDMC. And so we've been seeing her journey and her growth. And I think when we start those nascent steps as a young lawyer, and then through the help of our seniors and those who are our mentors, we become guided on to become personalities in our own right. We get encouragement, maybe from, in her case, also largely from her parents, her father and her mother. So, and she has been, in that sense, a great family person while being and taken so much care of her mother, and has been also a great lawyer in her own right. Then she's gone on to become a judge, Chief Justice, and now in the Supreme Court. So clearly, her journey will result in encouragement to a lot of young lawyers, a lot of young women lawyers. And that's why she has actually, as you said, Tarun, she's actually been speaking her mind.
Yes.
And I'm reminded of Ruth Ginsburg, who everybody or we all quote often. Real change, enduring change happens one at a time, slowly over a period of time. And what you say is by example, in a sense that not only do you say it, you also say it in a manner that is inclusive and that encourages people to change. I feel what I liked most about some of the most, endearing aspects. You have to see what as a woman judge you throw to the system, and there are many aspects. But during the COVID-19 time, whether it was in Delhi High Court or when she was in Telangana, when she said you can't be closing borders to those that need treatment. And yes. I think just look at this. We have to think beyond us, beyond yourself, to see how a common man would feel. And I feel that's one of the hallmarks. I am very pleased that I have seen her journey and seen her grow and seen her this height. And I'm sure it's a great encouragement to a lot of young colleagues. Of course, while I say that, she's also in a sense part of the club that is the St. Stephen's College Club, where a lot of the old boys, not the old girls, but the old boys may have made it to the Supreme Court, and we have many outstanding Supreme Court judges who have come out from St. Stephen's. Justice Chandrachud, Justice Lokur, Justice Kaul, several. I don't need to name anybody, but obviously good education always has you in good stead. And I think to her, I'm also happy that her alma mater is the Campus Law Center. I may have gone to Cambridge, but all our bases have been the Campus Law Center, Delhi University.
Very interesting comment. And in fact, Justice Hima Kohli at the speech at Hyderabad International Arbitration Center also quoted Justice Ruth Ginsburg, where she said that as women achieve power, the barriers will fall. As society sees what women can do, as women see what women can do, there will be more women out there doing things, and we'll all be better of it. And also, before I go to Neha, I also want to share what she said in a speech. There has been a running gender disparity between men and women, whether in litigation practice or in law firms. Women lawyers frequently report that they are faced with gender bias, stereotyping, struggle to maintain work-life balance, disparity in salary, and harassment at the workplace. This is what she said. The Supreme Court, she said that the Old Boys Club continues to operate at different levels, perhaps very subtly these days, creating an impediment for the woman practitioner. Very rightly worded comment, I must say. Now, I go to Neha Nagpal. You yourself practiced Supreme Court litigation for 10 years. And also then you took this big decision of starting your own law firm. I think this is a very courageous decision. I don't know how many law firms led by women exist. Yours is one of the very few. Tell me how this journey has been and what do you make of the comments that Justice Hima Kohli has made? Because you are also like others breaking out. In the Supreme Court, where there is a lot of competition, you have chosen to start a law firm and run it. Your comment on Justice Hima Kohli.
First of all, thank you, Tarun, for having me on this panel. I think it is definitely a very esteemed panel, and definitely it touches a very emotional chord. So when I read Justice Kohli's statement, I sat down for a minute, and it sort of resonated at the core of me, because it not only was it addressing an issue that it is about the Old Boys Club, but how articulate and correct she was to say that it operates today, but in a very subtle manner. And I think that is also, one has to be at a level, at sort of a very an emotionally intelligent quotient has to be high to be able to gauge that, okay, this is the Old Boys Club operating. And I kudos to Justice Kohli for addressing both the aspects of it, not only about the Old Boys Club, but also about the subtlety with which it still sort of stares us women lawyers on the face. Definitely, Justice Kohli's journey has been very, very interesting. What I definitely take back home from it is that, and whenever this is from the Delhi High Court, to also I have had the experience of appearing before Justice Kohli while she was Chief Justice in Telangana High Court, and now, of course, in the Supreme Court, is, and I'm sure this comes from her rich experience as a lawyer, is that she's always prepared in court. And I think that's what makes her, not only does she know the file that's before her that she has to give a decision on, but she approaches the junior lawyers, more particularly, with great amount of kindness, which gives us at the bar a lot of comfort. And I think that's where one realizes that, it takes a lot that should come from the bar also towards the bench to the bar to be able to, with comfort, appear before a bench. And I think Justice Kohli's bench, whether it was the Delhi High Court or Telangana, the few times that I appeared, or the Supreme Court, is always a bench one knows what should be readied with your file, and also that, okay, you'll get the comfort there to appear. To address your question on transitioning from practicing with a law firm to starting out my own niche setup, it was very scary. I got lucky. We sort of formed a partnership and are able to sustainably take things forward. But yes, it was a leap of faith. It was a lot of trust. And of course, one sought inspiration from all the capable and high achieving women judges and lawyers in the fraternity. And I think being from the Delhi bar, it is a matter of great pride that the Delhi bar has some very fine judges, women judges, who now, of course, like Justice Kohli, who are in the Supreme Court. And of course, this esteemed panel is also from the Delhi bar. So it is a great feeling.
Thanks for that opening comment. I'll go across to Ma'am Pinky. And Ma'am, on the role of corporate players, Justice Kohli said that since they were important stakeholders in the field of arbitration, she clearly said that women had earned a name for themselves in the arbitration field. It was incumbent upon players to ensure the names of women are included in any list that is received for appointing an arbitrator. So we see that in arbitration women have made a success of themselves. She also said that young women lawyers must be afforded opportunities to intern in legal departments of business houses and the government sector to gain experience. Speaking about herself, she said that I stand before you in a representative capacity, having pierced the glass ceiling. As a first generation lawyer in the family, where most judge serving in the Supreme Court, it has indeed been a long and enriching journey. But she added a caveat that her own achievements did not detract from the fact that a glass ceiling existed that needs to be shattered. What do you feel of this statement made by Justice Hima Kohli?
Let me take the last statement first. So that is, the glass ceiling is there still, and it still needs to be shattered. I think I totally agree with her. Because much as we keep talking about, having broken the glass ceiling, that seems to be something which has happened. It has happened to an extent, but obviously there's a long way to go. So there are miles to go before I sleep. JS Mill and whatever else you have to say. So indeed, it's a continuous process which is going on. So you do make it to the situation, but then you have few and far between. So while Justice Kohli stands representative of a number of people and their aspirations and their desires, so to say, to achieve the ambitions, at the same time, there is still a large number which has to go across for it to be any fair representation of women in life. And definitely what I think is important, I believe there are a couple of factors. One, I believe at this point of time, women in the country have actually started participating on the public platform. It isn't as if they haven't. And I'm talking about large numbers. I'm not talking about the top positions. I'm talking about the middle level, so to say. So if you take, for example, the elections, you'll find that there is hardly any disparity today between men and women. I mean, it's literally about 1% roughly as the figures go. So that's a tremendous kind of achievement we made forward. But the difficulty happens when you do not have women in public positions or positions of power or strength or policy. So if you have women in those positions, you hope that is where the difference would be made. This is not to say that only women will make differences for women and men won't, because it's high time we also realize that it is an equal society. So in order for a change, it has to be the entire networking which has to change, and not only a section which has to work for the empowerment of women.
I ask you a personal question. You were one of the earliest lawyers probably in this country to have studied at Harvard and have come back. You came back to a very different New Delhi, if I must say. And then you made it and you achieved as ASG. I think Justice Hima Kohli also probably started at the same time and rose to the level of Supreme Court judge. How has your journey been? Because I think it would be very different from what, say, a Neha would have experienced when she started out. If you could just reflect back.
See, Tarun, to some extent, I'll be honest that it didn't seem such a kind of climb or an ascent or a kind of unfieldable situation that one went across. So it happened in a fairly reasonable way. And one of the reasons was that you had the confidence unto yourself, and some of people finding the confidence, you did repose confidence. Having said that, it might have been not the toughest journey ever, but at the same time, you did realize down the line, and possibly even in retrospect or hindsight, that this didn't happen because of the old boys club, or this should have happened, which didn't happen. So, I mean, I obviously at this point of time, possibly these are those things that you'll reflect in the books, which later come out in the kind of open. But it is a fact that you would have achieved either higher heights or heights faster
Yes.
at a different time and age if you were a man.
Yes.
I mean, of course, one can't keep putting it at that. There are several other factors in life, but this is definitely one of the distinct factors. So when we say that glass ceilings are shattered and, that's almost done, well, very nice. We've done a long way forward. But at the same time, there's so much more forward to go because, as I keep saying, women really constitute citizens of the country. So for the country to go, in fact, you need to have the she strength, which is not utilized. It's capital. It's capital for the country. It's capital for the globe. So we have to utilize our skills to the best. We can't be put, as Plato said, it's outside. Women are not citizens of the state. So they're outside that part. Because that also is a power game. So there is something, a mix-up between gender and power. So power is perpetuated by some. I don't want to name them, but there has been a situation where some of a judge, in fact, once said that if you give women power in X situation, which was ultimately in the context of agriculture, then women in another state will also ask similar kind of positions. Yes, they will. And if they're entitled to, they should get. But you really have to walk yourself out of this situation to say, you deserve it. you have merit, and then put in Justice Chandrachud's statement to say, all right, affirmative action, fine, it is fostering. Don't take it as a negative. Don't take it as exclusionary that I am having to resort to affirmative action because of this. So same thing for the 33% positions in parliament. I mean, you've had it at the panchayats, and it's proved to be a tremendous amount of success. So even I had some reservations. Should you have reservations at all? Well, generally speaking, no. But at the same time, if the object is not achieved in any other way, you to get to it, is it successful? Well, yes.
Thanks for that comment. I'll go across to Ma'am Geeta Luthra now. Look at it very interestingly. You're the daughter of one of the most well-known top criminal lawyers that India ever produced. I mean, there are anecdotes about your father which are spoken in many places where we get together or in the courtrooms, almost even today. When you came back, when you were in India and you started practicing, what was your experience like? Because you all, Justice Hima Kohli, Ma'am Pinky Anand, and you all started practice around about the same time. Could you reflect on that?
So interesting. I also wanted to comment a little bit about the arbitration aspect and the judiciary aspect. But see, one thing is that even within the family or within the profession, to some extent, women are given a more protective role. You're not thrown to the wind. You are not thrown into the gallows. You know, you are not thrown into rough and tumble of life. So that may work as a disadvantage in the profession to some extent. That's the one aspect. Second, I just wanted to comment back on what question you'd asked, Pinky, about Justice Kohli commenting about arbitration and having representatives or arbitrators that are women. Tell me how many arbitrators in India do you find are women? In international arbitrations from India, how many women lawyers, even though they are very competent, good women lawyers, how many do you have as arbitrators? I was asked this question in the UK, that look, we've started insisting that you have to have a representative. You have to have enough representation. It's not like having one director in a listed company who should be a woman. Yes. You have to have substantial, real representation of women. We do not have it in the legal field. We have one woman judge. We have two women judges. All right, this time we've achieved something, but ultimately, women are not representative by being given one appointment or two in the Supreme Court. Ultimately, this is not real. And I will also tell you a difference between lawyers and judges, which I want. Indians take greatly to authority. So if a woman is appointed as a judge, whether in a higher judiciary or high court or Supreme Court, because it comes from authority, you may respect. But still, you've seen, and I think Justice Indira Banerjee commented about it very recently, in fact. So you have to just see that you have to see that equality ratio or that acceptance of same pay, same opportunity, people, women being as good. Somebody is from Harvard, somebody is not. And I'm not saying necessarily Harvard is the be-all. But fact is that you have to see that if somebody is equally capable because they are a woman, they shouldn't in the profession. See, once you reach the bench, you have a position, you have a stamp. And we are fortunate that to that extent, there is a recognition, all right. But I think it's opportunity which is important.
Point well taken. But as I graduate, ma'am, you also went to Cambridge, right?
I went to Cambridge. Of course, I went to Cambridge, and what I'm saying is, it's not because you have a stamp of Cambridge that you are necessarily more capable. But if you are equally capable, then being a woman should not work. And I'm not talking of personalities here. I'm talking of generically for women, the hardcore criminal cases, the white collar crime cases, the other cases. There has to be actually the old boys club is slowly going away, but it's not gone. It's not gone anywhere in the world.
My takeaway slowly going away. That takes me to Neha Nagpal. Neha, very interestingly, you studied at the University of Warwick. You choose to come to India. You studied in a different environment, but you did some of the best cases at the Supreme Court of India over the past 15 years. You got an opportunity to do. Then you started your own law firm. How has the journey been? And then you have also seen all these, a lot of women become judges in the Supreme Court during the course of these years. Now, soon we'll have a first woman Chief Justice of India. Could you reflect on your journey coming from University of Warwick? A lot of kids don't choose to come to India. They work in London. These days it's happening. You choose to come, and you were a first generation lawyer. And then setting up your law firm and then having the kind of practice you have. Could you tell us how challenging has it been?
Of course, well, I'm grateful for the challenge because I think that's what kept me on my toes. Also, at one level, one was, I think it was either the environment or through interaction with everybody, one was made, like I had this very early in the day, I had an experience where I was made to go take a Passover. I was not even doing this matter, but a colleague of mine was. And I was told it was back in 2009, a particular judge of the Supreme Court who never gave Passovers and was was known for his shairana andaz. And I was told, you go take a Passover. And I just looked around saying, but I don't even know the matter. I mean, I haven't read the file. Said, no, don't worry. You're a girl. He'll give it to you. And that was I still see that happen. I still see very many of my colleagues say, oh, we like to hire women juniors because they're more conscientious. It gets me to think and wonder that if they are more conscientious, are you still giving them the same opportunity that you would give to another junior? Say, listen, rug it out and maybe go to a Tisazari or maybe go to Rouse Avenue, or why don't you just argue this matter in High Court? That opportunity may not with that much ease be given to them. I think that in a very subtle manner, the Old Boys Club does still exist. It did exist when I started practice 15 years ago. One was made with senior women in the profession, with people, colleagues, with well-wishers. One interacted with. Everybody said, listen, you'll just have to work slightly harder. You'll be sitting in a room full of men in a conference, which happens till date. That I'm still maybe in a room full of 10 men. There are in a room full of 10 people, there are 8 men and 2 women. One just has to make sure that you're very well prepared, you know the matter, and you're willing to risk yourself and lean in and step in and make your point felt.
Now, tell me one thing. As a law firm, when you now represent some of the big names in corporate India, which you do, what kind of challenge is it? Because you are going out, getting those matters, representing in the Supreme Court, High Court, other forums. How you're able to do it, what kind of grounding you had. I mean, is it still much more of a challenge than what the males have, or now you're okay because you're doing well?
Now I'm okay. To be honest, I think once it was the initial 2-3 years of stepping out on my own, the experience I had helped. But initially there was still this thing that, okay, you're a girl. The biggest place where I felt that was not on the competence. They trusted you when it came to work. Oh, really? You want to charge us that much? Come on. It was just, trying to sweet talk you into reducing your fees, which I actually started realizing doesn't happen with any of my male colleagues until date. That is something I faced till date. So I very nicely leave it to some of my partner at work. Why don't you take that on? But I guess it's something that's the subtlety. That's exactly the subtlety that Justice Kohli addressed.
Okay, very interesting. Now we very quickly, we have 2 minutes left. We move on to a round of closing comments. So your closing comment on Justice Hima Kohli and the kind of statement she makes at regular intervals to encourage young women lawyers to achieve.
I think it's absolutely encouraging and it's absolutely inspiring. Just that comment coming from a sitting judge of the Supreme Court was very inspiring. And the fact that a sitting judge is cognizant of the subtlety with which the Old Boys Club operates was kind of, is it sort of personally for me, pushed me further to say, listen, let's just go ahead, keep our eyes on the game and let's go ahead.
Thanks for that closing comment. I'll go across to Ma'am Pinky Anand and Geeta Luthra for the closing comments. Ma'am, over to you.
See, basically, Tarun, I tell you, I think the whole situation is one of resonance. And I think more than that, which I do want to point out, is that Justice Kohli is a greatly humane person, but in addition to which, she's a fierce person. She's a fierce person when it comes to arguing. It's a fierce person when she stands up on issues. So coming across, I think the whole game forward is that of encouraging people to accept the reality and to accept the impediments and to overcome them. So it's really, we shall overcome is the kind of song that is going to be sent down. And even broadly, I'll just tell you one thing on arbitration, which I had omitted. Basically, I do feel that you have a question not only of gender diversity, you have one of regional gender diversity also inbuilt into the whole system. And Justice Kohli has been very strong on arbitration overall throughout, including in the courts in which she's given some stupendous judgment in SAL and State of Chhattisgarh, etc. I think it would be very nice if ultimately it could be converted into action at all fronts, and I'm sure that it will.
Thanks for the closing comment. Over to Senior Advocate Geeta Luthra for a closing comment.
So I mean, great credit to her. I see her judgments on women and law. I see her judgments and orders on juvenile justice, on the prison reform. I saw that she had looked at the Pegasus spy care. She'd also been part of the bench in the Future versus Amazon, where they didn't interfere. So interesting aspects. You want, you can see from the court that she is there in various fields of matters. And that's what I think. I want to close, of course, with what Ginsburg said. She said, when will there be enough women on the bench? She said, when all 9 are women. So I'm very happy she's there. I'm very happy there's Justice Nagaratna is there, Justice Trivedi is there. And I'm very happy that all this is happening. But I would be the happiest when young people take Justice Kohli's lead and look that this is the way to go. And it's
very
great.
Thanks for the closing comment. And in fact, we today get the opportunity to close our third show on Justice Hima Kohli. We had an opportunity, as I said, when I started, when she was elevated as the Chief Justice of the Telangana High Court. Then she was elevated to the Supreme Court of India. Of course, she is vocal, she speaks her mind. So I know we'll get many more opportunities, not only on these issues, but other issues whenever she is vocal. Also, looking forward to her career as an arbitrator post-retirement, because she's so vocal about arbitration. I'm sure she'll take up arbitration later sometime. Otherwise, because she's speaking her mind even on this topic. And of course, interesting times ahead. Thank you so much, ma'am. Pinky Anand, Senior Advocate Geeta Luthra, Neha Nagpal, Managing Partner of NM Law Chambers, making time and joining us on this very important issue. Thank you, viewers. Thank you.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.